I caddied, and when I was caddying, the stock market was hot. And so the people I caddied for played the stock market, and then I got involved, and so it does. I learned from my mistakes. In other words, my instinct is, you go there and you place a bet. I've had winners and I've had losers. And what I did, every time I made a mistake, they became painful mistakes, but with time, I realized that reflecting on those mistakes would give me gems. What I would do is I'd say, why did I make that mistake? And I would learn from that mistake. And I'd write down a rule. So what was helpful for me is I put that rule, I wrote these principles down. Those principles that I wrote down, I then put into algorithms, in other words, equations. And what I learned by being able to do that is if I took my decision criteria, those principles, and then I tested them back through time, I gained a perspective that was fantastic. I could test them in back 100 years. I could test them in different countries, and I would learn how those rules worked. And by putting all those rules together and then having these algorithms, the computer could replicate my thinking, but it could actually think better than I could, because what it would do is it could process more information, it could process it faster, and it could process it less emotionally. So it was like having a GPS that was next to me while I was also making my decisions, like you're driving in a car and you have both operating. And to have that next to me was, invaluable. It would learn, I would learn, and together we built that.
Firstly, can you tell us, are you authentically satisfied and fulfilled? Do you have an experience in life of being successful? The second question is, as a man with something around $20 billion of worth, what are the surprising consequences that have come with that kind of wealth? And what, at age 67, do you plan to do with it?
Well, first of all, I don't have $200 billion in wealth. That's the amount of money I manage for others, but I do have a lot of wealth, and so I can answer your question. So I don't think that success is like a lot of people believe it is, and for any really successful person. I think that everybody's always struggling. And what happens is, you just struggle at a higher level. It's like learning how to ski or play some sport, and you're just kind of doing this higher thing, but it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like I'm struggling. And I think it's, and it's a good feeling. The way I think of it is, I've always thought that it's like, in order to be successful in life, you have to cross a jungle. Or you could stay on the other side of the jungle and not cross the jungle. But if you choose to cross the jungle has all sorts of things that can do you harm and bite you and everything along those lines. And so the best way to do that is to go into that with people who can see things differently and watch themselves and struggle to make it to the other side. And then what I've discovered along the way is that it's always a struggle, and I enjoy being in the jungle. I don't want to get to the underside. I don't want to get out. So that's what it feels like to me. In terms of, let's say, the money, I think that there's a full cycle. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. Meaning I started with nothing. I didn't have anything. And just from the practical point of view, I don't believe that giving my kids a lot of money is a good thing. I think the best thing I could give anybody is strength. And struggling produces strength. And I also experienced my own opportunities. I think the biggest problem is a lack of equal opportunity, and there are certain things that also inspire me a lot. Nature, the ocean inspires me a lot. So it's fun to be able to make those kinds of contributions. You have to have that. It's not an obligation. I find that it's very difficult. Is saying that it's more difficult to give away money than it is to make it, and that's true because you don't have a feedback mechanism. If you're wasting money and you're running a business, then your costs will exceed your revenues and you'll go broke, and so it'll be self-correcting. When you're doing things philanthropically, you don't have that same kind of feedback loop, and so it becomes a challenge. But it's exciting. So. Know what you don't know. Be comfortable with understanding your mistakes and your weaknesses. Trading low point. There was a time that I had pork belly positions that were limit down every day, which means I didn't know how many days it would go on, and it could bankrupt me, and it could ruin me. Sometimes the high points come from the low points. They're simultaneously, meaning I learn the most when I am making mistakes. And so I know, like, if I'm making money in the market, it might seem like a high point because you figure, okay, you're making money, but you don't test yourself as much. When you're making a low point and you're in misery, you're saying, how am I doing this wrong? And you're learning a lot, or at least I'm learning a lot. Lessons from History, 104-page book. It's Will Durant, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest historian of all times, wrote something like 15 volumes of history over the last 5,000 years, and he distills it to what are the lessons of history, things going on and on. Fantastic. Paul Volcker is a man who sat in the middle of, he was the Undersecretary of the Treasury for Monetary Affairs in 1971 with the breakdown. His background goes before that, so he sat in all the most important chairs and had the biggest impact over that period of time through the last 50 plus years in the middle of it. I don't know, it would be Paul Volcker or Charlie Rose. The inability to have thoughtful conversations about what's true and what to do about it when there's disagreement. I believe that when people disagree, thoughtful people disagree, if they can open-mindedly and assertively work through that to find out what's true and what to do about it, you have tremendous potential. And it's the failure to do that which is our greatest tragedy. Meditation is the single most important thing in terms of whatever success. What it does is, and it's not as you know, it's just an exercise. It's an exercise in becoming centered, and it also opens your mind, so it gets thoughts out of your mind. It clarifies, it eliminates that. When you open your mind, you're sort of going into this sort of relaxed, unconscious, subconscious state. It's not unconscious, not conscious. And that opens your mind. So you become centered, you become relaxed, you can become yourself, you can become comfortable, you can stand back and look at things in a certain way. It's the ability to be centered and to approach things in a calm, centered way without all those fears, just, analyzing what's true.